Hi everyone, Grada here. Sorry I'm running very late today. Normally I do You and the Miracle FM at 8 o'clock and I believe it's 20 past 8, quarter past 8. And I'm going to be honest with you and not pretend that I haven't been running late all day. I woke up late and I didn't sleep well last night. And my clock has just been playing up with me all day. Hi Tina and Leanne and Debbie and everyone. Sorry I'm 20 minutes late today, which is absolutely terrible. But I had a day off today and the clock has been confusing me all day. So I'll blame daylight savings. How are you going with daylight savings? I love it, by the way. So today I have like a special message, and of course it's to do with self-love again, because self-love is something that we all need to kind of rediscover again as we become adults, and what it means to us and how we can apply it in our lives and how it can change us and for the better and give us freedom, wealth, health and all the rest. Thank you. I'm glad about that. Yeah, I love daylight savings too. So I had a funny weekend this weekend. That's probably another reason why I'm still like behind the 8 ball. I offered to have 5 of my grandchildren over. So the eldest one was an 11-year-old boy, then the 10-year-old twins boys, and then Alia, who was 9, and Bobby, who was 8. And so they stayed with me from Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday night they went home again. Thank goodness it was daylight saving, because it gave me an hour less. So trust me, to have the shortest weekend in the whole year, to have some of my grandchildren. So I had a ball observing my grandchildren as a healer, of course, and to see how they process life and how different they are compared to when they were little toddlers. And so what I noticed was that at age 10 already their tolerance towards self-love is very little, and their tolerance towards abuse or receiving abuse is very high. You could say they had a high pain threshold when it comes to tolerating abuse, and there was a lot of abuse going on. And when I showed them love, or when I got them to tune into themselves, to teach them self-loving habits, some new habits, they were very intolerant to them. It was really hurting them. It was hurting them to practice self-love. And this is at age 10. So that kind of really shocked me to see that as our tolerance to love ourselves goes down, our tolerance to receive abuse goes up. And of course, most of us receive a lot of abuse, wittingly and unwittingly. We abuse ourselves, mostly actually as adults. And so, but the opposite could then also happen, that as we start to discover that self-love and self-care is what it's all about, we start to recognize how we are abusing ourselves, or how we are receiving abuse even at the hand of others. We become less tolerant to it. So yeah, tonight I want to talk about that a little bit. So it was interesting for me to see, as my little grandchildren, and I'm not blaming the parents or any, because they've all got terrific parents. I'm not blaming the school or the school teacher. I'm not even blaming society or our community. It's just what happens. It seems to be our journey in life, that we're born as babies, fully awake, like, wide awake. Because as we're born, little babies, they believe they're the absolute biggest gift to the universe, which they are. That's the truth. And but then as life goes on and you're told to shut up and fit in and be polite and behave, and we're told to stop crying, or we're told when we feel something that's not what we're feeling, the little child becomes confused. And then as we go to school, well, then it intensifies and amplifies, and we learn to hide behind our masks. We take on masks and become personas. Especially I could see that in the little girls very much so, that they were flipping personas all the time, which also grieved me a little bit, but it is what it is. So I always tell my students that by the time we're 18, we should be handed a certificate to say, now you're your own mom and dad, so you have to parent your inner child. That's what life is all about from that moment on. As an adult, it's about healing our inner child and giving that child nurturing and self-love. And so today I'm going to give you 2 ways to do that. So the first way we need to stop abusing ourselves is by telling ourselves the truth, right? Becoming true to ourselves. And I had lots of fun doing that with my grandchildren. So I'll tell you a little bit in a story way how we can do that for ourselves. And the grandkids, they were teasing each other a fair bit during the day, and Peter said, that's okay, that's just how children play. And they were calling each other names, and I was doing what all good grandparents do, so I took them out, took them for an ice cream somewhere, and they were playing. I took them to playgrounds, and they were busy all the time, but the name calling and the teasing just kept going. And I thought, oh well, that's probably because they haven't been around each other for so long, and so on. But in the afternoon on Saturday, I was getting a little bit fed up with it, so I said they had to sit around the kitchen table, stop pretending who they were, and just call each other every name under the sun and get it out in 5 minutes. So I gave them 5 full minutes where they could look each other in the eye, scream at each other, and say what they wanted to say, and so on. So anyway, they thought it was absolutely the best thing ever, except for Ethan, who was 11, and he's very responsible, so he didn't want to join in. But the other 4 kids were screaming their heads off and calling each other all sorts of real ugly names and getting rid of their anger. And then I got them to scream in the pillows as well and punch the couch, and really kind of broke the tension between the 5 kids. And then they went outside and jumped on the trampoline, and then within a few minutes the 3 youngest kids came racing back in and said, Ethan is calling us names now. So anyway, I had to explain to the children that, you know, if you don't empty your anger bucket or your sadness bucket or your fear bucket every day, it's going to spill over and spill over into your relationships. And, you know, little niggles happen all day long. So that was really good. And I got the kids to do it again the next morning after breakfast, and they did it even more wholeheartedly. So that was really great for me to see how they freed up and were all right to show each other their ugliest feelings. And after that, we also talked about, there were some cries because Bobby, her parents have recently separated, and she was feeling a lot of sadness, and the other 4 kids didn't know what to do with it. It was too big for them, so they were kind of zoning out and not being present. And so I got them to tune into their own hearts and into their own worst fears, and I got each child to feel their worst fear, which is often to do around abandonment and not feeling lovable. Actually, all human beings have 2 fears in common, and pretty much everyone has it. Especially you can see it in Donald Trump, like never feeling good enough. That means he never has enough, so he always has to have more. And never feeling, you know, the fear of not feeling lovable. We all share that fear. It's never going to heal from an outside force. We have to simply just take charge and heal it in ourselves. So I spent some time with the kids tuning into their own hearts. And after they had done that for about 15 minutes, I shared with each child something that I found really, really special about them. And then I told them how much I loved them. And then I noticed how incredibly uncomfortable the grandchildren were in receiving love from me, as in, expressed love. And I thought, well, that's where things go wrong in our society, and how much healing we need, because these children, they still have another 10 years to go before they, probably ready to do some self-healing work. And by then, of course, all these issues have gone really, really deep into their tissues, and they're going to need a few decades to defrost. So this is also called somatizing. If you've heard of that term, soma means body, and it simply means that when there is an uncomfortable feeling that we don't want to experience, let's say fear of abandonment, intense hurt when our parents have left us, or we're feeling rejected, the fear of rejection, that's a big one. We never want to feel it, so we become very, very good at pretending those feelings are not happening. They're not running through our nervous system. So we literally split off from our nervous system, you could say, but our body still feels it, and those feelings get stuck in our tissues, and they slow down the flow of energy. The flow of energy is simply actually our essence or our spirit that flows through our body, but it becomes more and more restricted, and then our ability or our capacity to experience joy and happiness is also constricted. So in my opinion, it's actually now all about just A, be true to yourself, what you feel, and B, show yourself some love. Just tell yourself how beautiful you are, how wonderful you are, how much you love yourself all the time. Even if it feels artificial to you, after a while, it starts to become natural. So I have this all kind of sounds a little bit negative, but I also have some really, really good news that will encourage you. So if you put your hand on your heart, and you can that's what I did with my grandchildren. The minute you put your hand on your heart, I'll just show you. You only need to put it there, right? So it's just actually above your heart. The minute you do that, and you breathe into your body, so the breath follows the warmth of your heart, immediately the chemistry of your body changes. So literally, your brain can't think your habitual thoughts. It becomes very, very hard, by the way, then to abuse yourself. And because what's happening is your heart center is activated. So our heart is actually formed long before our brain is formed. And our brain is, of course, where all our tricky, abusive habits and so on come from, right? In a personas. Mind you, you have to learn to love your brain as well. So we don't need to abuse our brain. But it's simply the truth. Our suffering comes from our unexamined thoughts, and our thoughts just keep on running the show. I think we have about 300 thoughts per minute or something. It's a lot anyway. That's where all our suffering comes from. So we can simply stop our suffering momentarily for many minutes during the day by putting your hand on your heart. And I'm inviting you to do that now with me. So just put your hand on your heart center. Breathe in. So your heart was formed long before your brain. Your heart pumps around, 100,000 times per day or something like that. 40 million times per year. And every time you feel your heart beat, it's a reminder to remind you of the truth of who you really are, your core essence, which is unconditional love, or universal love or infinite intelligence. So just feel your heart beat, if that's possible, under your hand. And take a deep breath in and out. And that's stopping the abuse for a minute. Because every day we think 60,000 thoughts per day, and most of those thoughts are negative, which means they're abusive, which means our tolerance level for abuse just goes up and up every day. And I want to be able to help you to reduce that and to increase your tolerance for self-love. So it's like a thing that goes like this. We all want joy and happiness, right? And we want to love ourselves, of course, and because we want to experience freedom from suffering, and we want to experience flow and wealth and abundance, and we want the pain to stop. But we actually have to do something different then. So this is a very, very simple exercise that you can do to refresh your self-love button, so to speak. You know, press reboot your computer. And the effects will be felt in your body for 6 hours. So then in 6 hours time you can do it again. And your chemistry will change. This has been proven by scientists who've done a lot of work on the heart-brain connection. So the heart actually has brain cells in the heart who are our primary brain cells. And those brain cells in our heart send messages to the brain that's here, right? And this brain responds to our heart. And they believe that the electromagnetic field of our heart is 1,000 times more powerful than our brain. So if you look at it from that way, our brain literally can't win over our heart. And of course it doesn't either, because we are never not connected to our heart. Because if we were not connected to our heart, we would die. And our heart is always, beating. And every time it beats, it's reminding us that we are love, unconditional love, and nothing else. And that all the rest is just an illusion. And the illusion is where the suffering starts to happen. And this is a long story, but I was just telling you about my grandchildren, because I can see that that in a few short years between when we were born and age 7, it's like all the damage is done and we are set up for suffering, right? And that seems to be the human condition. That's what I call the human condition. And I want a different life for my grandchildren, and I want a different life for you too, and for myself too. Apparently, after we turn 25, it becomes harder for us to learn our lessons. And the universe, of course, still loves us unconditionally. So the universe constantly wants to remind us that we are true unconditional love. And it has to literally wake us up through trauma. Trauma and suffering seems to be our major teacher. But now that we know there is a different way, I'm going to encourage you to just simply tune into your body every day. So breathe into your heart. Remember that at the core you are completely unconditional love, nothing else. And then I want you to also come clear like my grandchildren did with each other. And they simply looked at each other and told each other all the ugly thoughts they had. And I said, you can go for it. They were allowed to even say swear words, which may not be politically correct, but it got rid of a lot of toxins out of their body, and it helped them to be true to themselves, which is, in my opinion, more important than to be politically correct. So I want you to do the same with you. So if you have toxic feelings in your body about anyone, you're actually always talking about yourself, by the way. So if you say, oh, such and such is so lazy, really what your body is hearing, I am so lazy. So I want you also to do an exercise this week where you write down, I love myself for feeling lazy. I love myself for, and you just think of all the negative emotions that are stuck in your tissues, and there would be, you know, hundreds there. So just say, connect with them, and that's how you empty out your stresses, your traumas. You open up a lot of space, and then it's like your heart can breathe again, and you become full of self-love. So it kind of seems counterintuitive, but trust me, it works amazingly well. You just feel so free, and it's like a breath of fresh air. So what I want you to write down is, after you finish watching this, you just tune into your body, and you literally quickly write down all the things that annoy you about people around you, because that's easier to write down than what annoys you about you, okay? But you're still talking about yourself. So just write down things like, anyway, you can think of stuff, such and such, like, I'm a liar, blah, blah, blah. I feel frustrated. I feel bored. I feel empty. I feel unlovable. I feel cowardly. I feel helpless. I feel, you can come up with a whole list of things that you may not even be conscious of that you're feeling, but the trick is to bring it in your consciousness, and that means your body doesn't have to feel it. And then the next thing is, you look in the mirror and you look at yourself in the eye, and you just keep telling yourself, I love myself for feeling pain. I love myself for feeling empty. I love myself for feeling betrayed. I love myself for feeling disappointed, and so on and so on. And that's going to awaken your life force. You can even perhaps do a double whammy by putting your hand on your heart as you're saying that, and going through that exercise. And remember, when you're talking like that to yourself, it's actually simply allowing your brain to spew all that stuff. It's like a volcano eruption. Just let the volcano erupt, and then after that, it will be all beautiful and quiet and peaceful in your body, because your heart knows anyway that it's just talk and not really who you are. But at the same time, it's important that you express those feelings, because they are stuck in your nervous system. Okay, I hope I've made myself clear. I'll write down some notes so that it's easier for you to follow. So it's just two things: be true to yourself, stop pretending to yourself that everything is perfect when it isn't. Give yourself, you know, a time frame to say all the ugly, to acknowledge all the ugly feelings that you have, and you just do it for you. It's between you and you. It's between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. It's between your little mind and your spirit. Get those two to come together and be married happily, and that will be reflected in all your relationship. And just keep putting your hand on your heart, which is your core essence, which is your beautiful self, and start getting used to receiving love into your life. So hope you enjoy this, and sorry for being late again today. I hope you've all caught up with springtime, and when you feel tired, listen to your body and go and lie in bed for a while, have a sleep during the day. That's another way of listening to your body. And I'm going to finish. Thanks everyone for watching, Haley and Elizabeth, and let me know what you think. Let me know, share with me how you sometimes abuse yourself or lie to yourself, or what you do to practice self-love and self-care, and how you're building up your tolerance for self-love. And yeah, I just think it's funny that at the core of ourselves we are nothing else but unconditional love, and yet somewhere along the line we've created an intolerance towards that, towards who we truly are. So it's about creating a new sense of normality here, where we're not allergic to ourselves anymore. Okay, so I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'm looking forward to having more You're the Miracle time next week on Thursday at 8 o'clock. Stay safe and have a good week, everyone. Bye bye. Looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.